Okay, guys, can you hear me? Let's do a check. Welcome to a new language learning show on a Saturday in May. So let's get started without further ado. Thank you so much for all the questions that you've asked me. I have saved a few that you sent me via email, some from the students of my academy. Pretty interesting questions. I'll address a couple of those. But before we start, I wanted to know if you can hear me fine, where you're from, and what language or languages are you're learning in this specific order. Someone says, hey all, hey, where can we ask questions? Philip Reiber says, I guess, Philip, you're German. Du bist Deutsch. You can ask it directly here, and I will show them. They will appear right here as I've done, that I've just done. Philip, hallo. Bajan Alpha, I guess, says, I can hear you well. I hear an echo in my AirPods. That's the reason why I'm asking if you hear an echo. If you don't hear an echo, that's fine. I hear my own voice, but it's not that bad. So if you hear just one voice from me, that's fine. Someone says, Antonio says, hello, hola Luca, hola Antonio, joining from Spain, learning Spanish. Me alegro. España me gusta muchísimo. I love Spain. Hello everyone, says William. Lynn says, hear you perfectly. Italian in New York. Lynn, I think you asked me a question via email, and I think that's the first question I'm going to address. I think that's you. Let me see. Yes. So we're going to start with the questions in a little bit. Nirmal Sando joining from the UK, learning German and Farsi. Farsi is Persian. Beautiful language. Philip Reiber from Germany, living in Portugal, learning Portuguese and Russian, mainly with my Spanish, French on the back burner. Interesting that some people are learning multiple languages. And for those who are interested, actually in a few months, there is a super cool course that is coming out on my school that is about learning and maintaining multiple languages. And it promises to be great. I can tell you that. We've been working on it with my team for quite some time. And, so it's going to be awesome. But Jan Alpha says, can we ask questions in the chat as well? Okay, let me explain how this works. So basically, I'm going to, of course you can. I'm going to first address some of the questions that I got through the email from my students and people from the newsletter. And then I will reply to all these questions. This time is for you. This time slot is for you. You can ask me any question. Well, not any question, but questions related to language learning for sure. And I will try to do my best to answer all of those. Of course, normally I get a lot of questions and I get more and more excited because I love talking about this stuff. I could talk about this forever. So I'll try, to give a thorough response and at the same time address everybody's questions. So you can ask questions here. I will go through them. First, again, I'm just going to copy and paste some of the questions that I received via email. I already prepared them, and then I will address them, and then I will go up and I will answer all the questions. Judith says, hello, Luca. Hello, Luca. I was just reading in German. I'm Judith from Hungary, living in Norway, learning Norwegian and Spanish. Beautiful. More and more people are learning multiple languages. Bill, I'm in South Carolina learning German. I think, Bill, we know each other. You're one of the students from the school. We talked about learning German and the struggle of speaking and a lot of other things. If I think I recognize you. Opeta says hi. And we are getting a lot of questions here from Pennsylvania, US, learning Spanish, Norwegian, and Tagalog, 3 languages. Wow, that's interesting. So I'm pasting here a question directly on the chat, and then I'm just going to show you. Lynn says, my questions. She has a few questions. If one is working towards C1, is it better to expand a lot of effort making low-frequency words a part of one's active vocabulary, or to spend more time on speaking fluency, grammar, etc.? I don't know if you've seen, Lynn, the live that I did with David. You probably have. But to me, it's always, language learning is simple at its core. To me, the most important thing is to expose yourself massively to the language by reading, especially now. If you want to work towards C1, the most important thing that you can do is actually reading. I will show you in a little bit. I prepared this, my Kindle. I use also paper. I love paper actually more than Kindle. Kindle is great when you travel. But I will show you how I read. As of now, I have a solid B2 in Polish and I want to move on to C1 in Polish. So I will explain how I do that. I will not delve into all the strategies, but one of the most important strategies, without a doubt, is reading. So I would say, to me, the simplest thing to do is to read a lot. Of course, you can continue listening to podcasts, you can read articles, but reading novels and nonfiction, and if you make it a habit, like say 30 to 45 minutes a day, if you make it structured, it's the one thing that is going to take you to the next level. And focusing on, you can also focus sometimes on, can do grammar drills, you can talk to people, you can hire a tutor, you can talk to, AI. But once again, I think the most important thing is reading. We're going to talk about this in a little bit. I'm going to give you here a couple of demonstrations. I'm going to show you how I do things. I got another question from Alejandro. So I'm just going to paste this. This question was asked directly in Spanish. I'm going to translate it for you guys. I'm Alejandro, un alumno de tu academia. He's one of the students of my Smart Language Learning Academy. Felicidades por tu proyecto empresarial y mucho ánimo con el curso avanzado. On top of the how to learn and maintain multiple languages, we're also working on how to move from B2 to C1 and beyond, which is I'm very proud of, because this is one of the the things that are not normally addressed, and I'm very passionate about this thing. So these two courses are going to see the light in the Learn and Maintain in a few months, the advanced course in 2026. Mucho ánimo con el curso avanzado. Espero en el futuro poder adquirirlo también. Es posible llegar a desarrollar, this just shows just one part, a desarrollar un nivel avanzado de un idioma de manera autónoma sin llegar a trabajar sus particularidades gramaticales de manera específica, como si lo harías al prepararte para un examen C1 o C2. Basically, he's asking me if, is it possible to, once again, a question about this, to reach a very high level without having to, to work on grammar and to do drills and just by naturally exposing yourself to the language? The answer is yes and no. My answer would be to expose yourself. Exposing yourself to the language is the most important thing. You want to keep doing that and paying attention to details, but you also need deliberate effort or deliberate practice. Deliberate practice means that you have to spend some of your time, maybe 20% or 30%, doing things that kind of stretch your abilities. Let me give an example. Let's say that you want to improve your speaking. Well, if you talk to a tutor, let's say that you've been working with a tutor and you have a B2 in German or in English. And if you keep talking to your tutor and engage in very simple conversations, or just engage in the same conversations you always engage in, you're not going to improve that much. So you have to kind of stretch your boundaries, so to speak, stretch your abilities, get out of your comfort zone by, for example, choosing topics you don't normally talk about, or even choose topics you do talk about normally, but address them in a different way, trying new things, trying to say things you cannot say and ask, I'm trying to say this. How do you say it in, say, German? And then the tutor will give you the answer, and then you can apply that, then getting feedback, and then reapplying that feedback. So, for example, you have a conversation. You can have, let's say, a speech of 5 minutes, a monologue about a specific topic. Then the tutor listens to you, or even AI listens to you, gives you feedback on all the mistakes or things you could have said better. And then you can take that feedback and then you can implement it by trying to give that speech again. This is one form of deliberate practice. The bottom line is, forget about grammar, expose yourself to the language, expose yourself massively to the language, and spend 80% of your time doing things like if you were doing those things in your native language, but at the same time, spend 20% of that time in deliberate practice mode. And this is across all skills: reading, listening, speaking, and writing. Because the deliberate versus simple practice, just exposing yourself to the language or just doing something in the language, is not enough at this stage. We talked about this with David, who's a master in this. And if you want to delve into this more, please go and take a look at the conversation. Actually, we have two conversations. One was last Saturday, was done live, but it's recorded on YouTube. And then we have another video on my channel that addresses that. And in the live, David gives a very nice presentation on the concept of deliberate practice, what to do, et cetera, et cetera. So let me address one more question from those that I received, and then I'm going to reply to some of your questions, and then We're going to go back and forth. So let me see here. Foodie asks, it's a very long question, so we're going to break it down. I've been trying to learn Polish on and off for the past 8 years. This year, I've been spending 5 hours per week, 1 hour daily on it. I'm doing a single lesson in Polish one-on-one, with a combination of listening for about 20 minutes and then studying for about 40 minutes, and only doing a single lesson a week. But I'm struggling with recalling anything I'm learning. I just can't seem to make the words stick. I recognize words, sure, but I do not have the ability to draw on them either in conversation or when studying. Getting frustrated that I don't feel like I am making progress, and the 1 hour should be better spent. Any advice on what I'm doing wrong and what I can do differently to get better results? My answer to this foodie source, because he didn't state that his name, is simply that it's quite possible that maybe you haven't gotten enough language in you for you to be able to naturally use it. What do I mean by that? When I say that language learning is a subconscious process, 90% of language learning is a subconscious process. This kind of meets some kind of reaction, like people react like, what do you mean it's a subconscious process? Don't I just sit down and try to learn? Yes, but again, sitting down and learning is just like setting up the table, eating, chewing. Then the process of actually digesting the information and making the language yours. When the language gets your brain gets familiar with the language, it takes time, and it's something that goes into your procedural memory. Think about the fact that you can, for example, swim or walk or speak your own native language. That is stored in they're called basal ganglia. It's a part of your brain, so it's processed automatically. You don't make any effort. So that's implicit subconscious learning. While learning, for example, there's another part of your memory that is called declarative memory that stores, for example, pieces of information, how you say, for example, dog in Spanish, perro, dates, names. This is stored in your declarative memory. That's a superficial kind of memory that if you try to resort to that kind of memory, it's exceedingly difficult to speak a language because the language is not in you yet. So the bottom line is that probably what is happening is that you haven't gotten enough of the language in you so that some of the processes get automatic. What you're trying to do is like you're trying to learn words and sentences, but then since the language is still not in you, it's really difficult to speak, to put them together. My advice is just relax. Just keep calm and just keep exposing yourself to content that you like. Pod 101 is great, but I would also highly recommend also using, for example, Real Polish. I'm just going to write it here so that you can get an idea, because I think Real Polish gives you even better content. I'm not saying that Pod 101 is bad. Let me just write it here. You can see it appearing. Let me see. You should be able to see that. And there's another resource which is great, and I'm looking at it right now, which is called Polski Daily. Back in the day, I was using both. I love them, and of course, Easy Polish is a great resource. But I'm referring to. I suspect that the level at which you're at, which is probably A2, these two resources are great. Because they're going to bridge the gap between A2 and B1, and then you can progressively use Easy Polish. Easy Polish is a little bit, they've introduced now material for people who have a lower level, but it's still kind of difficult. There's a lot of people complaining about, is this Easy Polish actually? This doesn't look easy at all. This is a common complaint that they get over Easy German, Easy Polish, etc. So there is a gray zone where you have to bridge the gap between A2 and B1. But again, going back to your question, I think you can relax, use other resources, get massive input, and do not worry about the fact that your brain still hasn't learned to put them together, because you're getting frustrated because you want to jump the gun, so to speak, and do things your brain is still not able to do because you don't have enough, comprehensible input with you. This is really, really important. And I keep saying that. I'm just going to write it here because it's so important. In order to acquire a language, it sounds dramatic that I'm writing it here, but it's really the number one rule in language learning. I keep repeating this over and over. In order to acquire a language, you need to expose yourself to content that is enjoyable, comprehensible, and rich. Let's see here if it appears on screen. I'm trying to do 10 things at the same time, as always. In order to acquire language, you need to expose yourself to content that is enjoyable, comprehensible, and rich. Write it down, put it on the fridge. What do I mean by that? I've talked about this, but I want to again repeat it, because repetita juvent, as the Romans used to say. When it comes to acquiring a language, meaning if you want to get the language in you at a subconscious level, at an implicit level, so that the information gets in the back of your head and your brain processes it and then reorganizes it, so then when it comes to speaking, it's going to be a little bit difficult at the beginning, but then it's gonna get much easier. You have to consume content that is enjoyable, comprehensible, and rich. And let me give you an example. I'm going to share my screen now just to give an example of what that means and what I've been doing, because I think that showing how I do things is way better. Before we start, I want you to take a look at this. This is a podcast at an A2 level in Turkish. So I've been learning Turkish for a year and a half now, but the reality is the last year I just did it for 3 months. So let's say that I've been learning Turkish for 6-7 months. I still have an A2 level, right? So what I'm doing is I'm consuming content that is enjoyable. And let me explain what this is: enjoyable, comprehensible, and rich. Let me show you how I make it comprehensible. Let me share with you why it's rich. What you're going to see now, you can apply it to any language you're learning. And this is really important and the most important activity that I do during the day. So let's get started. The first thing is enjoyable. Now, you can find, for example, a lot of resources nowadays. There's so many resources, right? You can choose from. But with AI, the difference is with AI, and I'm talking about AI, I'm not just talking about ChatGPT. I'm talking about the wide range of tools that we have nowadays. You can make the enjoyable even more enjoyable. So I've been using, for example, Easy Turkish podcasts and videos. I use a transcription of the videos and I use a transcript of the podcasts. But the podcasts are a little bit too difficult for me. And sometimes, they talk about, general things that I'm interested in, not interested at the same time. Here's the cool thing. What you see right here, right now, even if you can't read Turkish, this is it's called, it's grammar, implicit, explicit, case in point. It talks exactly about this. This is a podcast that I created myself based upon a video of mine on YouTube. So I have grammar, implicit, explicit. I have a YouTube video that I really I like. It's my own YouTube video, but I like the content because I like talking about the stuff. I gave it to Notebooklm, which nowadays, I don't know if you've ever heard of this Notebooklm. And then I gave it to Notebooklm, and what it did is that it transformed the podcast. It transformed the YouTube video into a podcast. So let me show you here. Let me share my screen and let's see. I'm going to give you a demo of what this means. Can you guys see my screen? Let me see. You should be able to see my entire screen, which is dangerous. Okay, so you should be able to see my screen right now. And this is Notebooklm. So what I've done is simply I've taken a YouTube video of mine, and then I just gave it to Notebook, and it turned to Notebooklm, and then I just asked him to create a podcast for me. And it sounds like the two voices sound native. They're just two people talking about my podcast, literally. So it's really cool because you can actually, let me show you here. So let me go to Turkish. These are all podcasts that I've created, both the PDF and the audio. I'm gonna play the audio, hoping that you can hear it because I'm listening to I have my AirPods here, so you can see here that it created a PDF. I created this PDF. I'm gonna show you in a second how I created this PDF. You have PDF and audio. Basically, I put simply the YouTube link into Notebooklm. I created the audio, I downloaded the audio, and I used Mac Whisper, which is another AI tool, to create the PDF. And then I have the PDF and the audio, right? So I'm going to play this. I don't know if you can hear it, but let's see. I can hear it. Write in the chat if you can hear it, because I have my iPad here so I can check what's happening. So there's a guy and there's a girl, and they talk. Okay, you said you can't hear, but believe me when I tell you that the audio is great. It's perfect for my level, and it's just reading this text. So I have a podcast that is a podcast about something I really like. It's ideal for my level. It's 8 minutes, and they talk about stuff that I discussed in the video. But that's not all. This is the next frontier when it comes to enjoyable, because this is extra enjoyable. I've noticed that I want to do this more and more and more, because it contains all these words of cognitive science, vocabulary, getting out of your comfort zone, learning vocabulary. This is what makes me tick, what drives me, and that's only the beginning. And then you also have something that yet another tool that you can use in order to make this even more comprehensible, and that is this one that David is the founder of this, and this is really, really cool. And basically, you can feed the PDF to, it's called LinguaThor T3, and what it does is that, as you can see here, it breaks down the text into its main components. Now, bear in mind that nowadays you can put the text into DeepL or Google Translate, and it gives you the direct translation. That's fine. But especially when it comes to Turkish, and not only, for people, for example, have a hard time dissecting the text, even if they have, okay, look, I got a bilingual text, but they still find it difficult to understand the nuts and bolts of grammar and whatnot. Here you have a breakdown of the text, of the content, word by word. So you can take a look at how, for example, today's detailed in our examination thing, especially your like B1 at level Turkish learning, someone for language knowledge, really know how more good can we learn to it we're focusing. So you have the breakdown word by word, and you can already tell that Turkish has a completely different structure, but you have the translation in plain English, In our detailed review today, we're focusing on how we can really learn grammar better, especially for someone like you who's learning Turkish at a B1 level. So you have everything you need in order to not only understand the general meaning of each word, but also, not only to understand the general meaning of a sentence, but also word by word. And this is really, really useful, especially when you're doing an analysis like this. So this is just to give you an idea, a very simple demonstration of, okay, we got the enjoyable, which is extra enjoyable because you're creating a podcast that is personal, where people, you could think about what you can do. Think about the fact that you can write a short text and give it to LM. So it's not just a YouTube, link that you give it. It's you can write your day, what happened yesterday, the best day of your life, the best week of your life. You write a short text, and then you just feed it to the machine, and you can actually instruct the machine to create a podcast of two people talking about you and your day. And then you can create a PDF, create audio. You can see here that I work on paper because I really like working on paper. And then you can use this amazing tool that is, for example, LinguaThor, which is one of the many tools that you can use in order to dissect the text and understand it, really well and really fast. There's a lot of people that talk about the fact that you should expose yourself just to content in your target language without your native language. But if you have your native language to support you, and you can leverage the knowledge you already have in your native language, you can understand any text much, much better. It's like an exploration, like you're exploring something, you're discovering something through a tool you already have. By the way, as we already said when we made the live with David, and also the other video that is on my channel, I only endorse stuff I love. I've been using LinguaThor myself, and I have an affiliate program with them, just in case you want to give it a shot. I'm just gonna leave it here. If, for example, you find it difficult to dissect a text, you like having a bilingual translation, but you still find it difficult to understand the single words. That was exactly what was happening with me and to me in Turkish. I was frustrated a few months ago because I had the translation. Okay, great. I'm supposed to be a good polyglot, so I'm supposed to understand this just by comparing, and it doesn't always work this way. Turkish is a complex language, and every language is complex in its own way. So if you have a way to dissect the text, if you have something that facilitates understanding, it's fantastic. So enjoyable, comprehensible. Nowadays, we can't complain that we can't understand something because we can create the PDF, we can create our own stuff, and we can make it understandable. And rich. Rich means that the text is rich in language. There's a lot of things I do not understand or that are new to me, and by using LinguaThor and using a combination of AI tools, while I'm listening, and I listen, I read, I analyze with LinguaThor, and not only, and then I just jot down all the things that I do not know. Now, my handwriting sucks, but you can tell, I'm pretty sure that you can tell that I am working on a piece of paper by, highlighting things and writing here. This means, for example, here, I write it in Italian so that I have this text, and now for me, it's immediately comprehensible. I can just listen to it and read it. And I have all the information already here. If you're wondering, Luca, why don't you use a phone? You can just use a phone, or you can use a PDF. Well, this is because paper and this weapon of mass destruction are way better to memorize things because you're using real life stuff. We take pride in saying that we've gone all digital. This gives you depth, and the internet gives you breadth. Let's put it this way. So again, simple rule is consume content that is enjoyable, comprehensible, and rich. And that is, if you do that, you're already done 50%, half of the work you have to do in order to acquire language. I have a few other questions, but I will address those later. A few other questions I got in my email box. Now let's go up and let's see what wonderful questions you have for me. I have my computer here. I have my iPad so I can see the questions at the top and the questions at the bottom. So let's start. So let me see here. Let's start at the bottom. And this one was one of the first questions I got. How can I better understand fast-spoken Spanish, especially filled with Mexican slang? Well, the answer is watch a lot of TV shows and a lot of movies. That will be my answer. If you have a hard time understanding spoken Spanish, probably maybe you have a B1, B2. That is the ideal level that for which and at which you can watch a lot of TV. And that's the fastest way, to get there. Just you have to get a lot. You have to listen to the language a lot. And the great thing about TV and TV shows and series and whatnot is just you get to hear how people use the language in real life. Watch it with subtitles if you want. Take notes. The more you do it, the better, and you will get there. The more you do it, the faster you're going to get there. Your listening comprehension. Let's put it this way. Your level of understanding of your listening comprehension really depends on the amount of content that you consume that is enjoyable, comprehensible, and rich. And nowadays, you can listen and read, or you can listen and watch with subtitles. The more you do it, the better. Okay, let me go through some of your questions here. William says, this is not a question, it's more like a statement. Mandarin is my primary target, but I'm also catching up on my German. I was a Russian linguist for the military at the end of the Cold War. Sounds like very interesting profile. Okay, so Nikolaski, what do you think about the passive immersion, like play podcast or working, cooking all day? I'm from Argentina learning Polish. Love you, Luca. I love you back. So, the first thing is listen to podcasts is great. I have a technique which is called listen to review technique, and it works the following way. It's a good combination of two things. Let me give you a very concrete example of what I used to do with Greek, for example. But the concept applies to Polish or any other language. If you have the time, if you have some time, spend, let's say, 2 days dissecting new podcasts in the way I've just shown you. So, for example, grab whatever it's like, for example, Easy Polish, download the audio, download the transcript. You want to use the transcript online, that's fine. You want to download it and print it, even better. Listen and read. Have a bilingual, have a tool like Linguathor or whatever you want to use, DeepL, Google Translate, in order to have a bilingual translation, and then use that, leverage that in order to quickly understand the text. Do this for 2 new podcasts every week. And then, for example, week 1, you've done 2 podcasts. Week 2, you've done 2 new podcasts. It's already 4. Week 3, you've done 6 podcasts. Once you've done, for example, let's say you've been doing this for 4 weeks, 5 weeks, you have already 10 podcasts. Then you move on. Every week you do 2 new podcasts this way. So you have to sit down. It's deliberate practice. But at the same time, you can go back and you can listen to these podcasts, to the old podcasts that you've already understood. So you've gone through them. You just listen to them while running some errands, doing the dishes, walking the dog, and whatever you want to do. I've been doing that for a couple of years with Greek, and it works wonders. It's a good combination of novelty and repetition, where novelty it implies that you do deliberate practice, dissecting new things, sitting down and trying to understand. Because once again, if you just listen to something that is rich, so it's a little bit higher than your level, you run the risk of not understanding it. But if you go through the system, it took me, for example, here an hour to go through this. But now I just can listen to it while I do the dishes, for example. This is a good combination, because novelty, repetition, and at the same time, the amazing thing that happens is that when you just listen in the background to stuff you've gone through, is just you're repeating words, right? You're re-listening to words in context. It's simple, but again, language learning is simple at its core, not easy to do in practice because of a lot of things. So that would be my suggestion for you. Passive immersion, just listening to stuff, hoping that that stuff is going to stick, doesn't work that well. But if you spend 20% of your time, 30% of your time discovering new things, dissecting them, and then you listen to them later, that works really well. This is, by the way, a technique called listen to review, and I explained it very much in detail in I'm just going to write it here for people who are interested, overcoming the intermediate plateau. I think that people who have been following me for some time know that I have a smart language learning academy where I teach all this stuff. I'm really passionate about learning how to learn, because I think that is what is lacking. We don't lack resources. We lack the know-how. Just going to write it here. So this is the page of the course, just in case you want to check. There's a lot of information there, including, for example, techniques on how to dissect podcasts, how I do this in practice step by step, and then listen to review, how I use videos, how I memorize vocabulary, how I use these small notebooks I'm gonna show you later, and many other things. Anyway, okay, let's go back to your wonderful questions. Here we got my roommate, who's just there, who said, try the podcast series Livet på lätt svenska. If you're learning Swedish, he's been using that, and he showed it to me yesterday. It's really great. David is the man of the hour. This is the founder of Linguathor, the amazing tool that I was showing you before, and the tool I've been using to learn Turkish. And while we're at it, I'm just going to share one more time the affiliate link, just in case you're interested. Take a look, because this is really worth it. Okay, let me see here. Another question. Do you think dictation is an effective method for studying a foreign language? Sorry if this topic has already been covered in a previous video. I'm from Korea. It's fine. When someone asks me is it an effective method, I wouldn't call it method. I would call it an activity. Dictation is one of the many activities you have to do. In order to acquire language, you have to do many things. If you want to do dictation, if you find it enjoyable, that's great. For example, you're listening to something and you're trying to write. Well, what you're doing is you're writing, and at the same time, you're spending time listening to the language. But that should be just one of the many things that you should do. So if I haven't done much dictation, à part la dictée en français à l'école, apart from dictation exercises at school when I was learning French. But I would say if you like it, just do it. But once again, it should be one of the many things that you should do, not just one. A lot of people get fixated on, I have to use flashcards, I have to do dictation, I have to do shadowing. And then the risk is that you're spending most of your time doing these activities to the detriment of other activities that are really are the activities that move the needle when it comes to acquiring a language, which once again is input. I know that it sounds trivial. I know that I'm a little bit repetitive, but language learning is simple at its core, but not simple. Simple means that 80% of your time should be spent getting input that you find comprehensible, enjoyable, and rich. Everything else is the cherry on top, or the icing on the cake, or whatever you call it. Let me see. Let me see some other questions here. Someone said, how did you get to consume Swedish content? Ayaros Galavit said, I'm having trouble to find comprehensible input in this language. As I said, my roommate is the man when it comes to Swedish. He's been consuming content in Swedish. I can hear him speak Swedish all day, even at night, which is a little bit bothering sometimes because, he's repeating stuff of the podcast. He's the man of the hour. He's the man you should actually talk to. Maybe he has time to write in the Desh, if you're watching this, I think you are. You should write a series of resources for Ayaros, I think Ayoros. But there are a lot of resources Ayoros. Back in the day when I was learning 2002, when I was learning Swedish or started learning Swedish, there were not so many resources. Now it's amazing the amount of resources that you have for Swedish at A2, B1, B2, and my roommate or flatmate knows it all. So someone said, Bearman, writing your own flashcards instead of using Anki is way better. I don't have a lot of I do have some experience with Anki flashcards. I made a video about it that was a little bit controversial. Could you say controversial in English, or controversial, I guess. But to each his own. If you want to use flashcards, that's great. Should always be the icing on the cake, not the main activity. Remember, that was my main issue in the video when I talk about flashcards. The thing I don't like about flashcards is that a lot of people get into this rabbit hole and they end up spending most of their time, let's say 50 minutes, doing flashcards instead of listening and reading, because listening and reading is a very organic thing. You listen, you read and listen to a podcast or a story, or you watch a video with subtitles that gives you a lot of context. So that is the kind of really content that allows you to acquire language. Let me see. Byron, he's been following me for quite some time. Have you ever tried to get the school system in Italy to shift towards the bidirectional translation method, especially seeing as you've personally developed results and the system school has not? It's a great question. The thing is, to change, the school system in Italy, is the school system in general, is that behemoth. So might as well build my own language learning academy, smart language learning academy, and try to spread the word about smart language learning. I know it's a lofty goal to try to change the system, but the system is really difficult to change for a number of political, financial, cultural reasons. So introducing the bidirectional translation into the school system is going to be difficult. Might as well just spread the word on the internet. But it's a good question, Byron. If I were president of Italy, I would completely change the education system, because I think the destiny of any country is its education system. If you invest into education, then the country is going to fare much better. Look at Scandinavian countries in terms of level of standard of life, or Finland. I don't know if you ever watched any documentary about the education system in Finland. In particular, there's one by Michael Moore, which is really interesting. You can easily find it on the internet. And he goes there and he goes like, hey, why does it work so well? Why do you know so well? Why are all these kids so prepared, so competent? And then the answer is they don't do homework. They spend most of their time outdoors playing, etc., etc. So really counterintuitive answers. You go like, oh, okay, but I've been functioning in a system. We have been functioning in a system that does not work. And language learning is just one example, one glaring example of how the education system has failed us. In my case, the reason why I've learned so many languages is because from the get-go, I was lucky enough that I was functioning, so to speak, in a family that fostered my curiosity, my interest. My mom bought me a lot of books. My grandmother were talking about mathematics and physics and languages and Latin and whatnot all the time. And I lived in this environment where they not only foster my curiosity, but they also pushed me to be an independent thinker, critical thinking. When I was 10, 11, we were talking about this stuff, and I think it really made a difference. Unfortunately, at a higher level is more difficult. I think I think the education, as of like adults, we should take the time to educate ourselves more by reading more, by investing more energy into our education in general, because I think it really makes a difference. Someone said Machiavellista. I think Machiavellista too. You've been following me for years. You left a bunch of very nice comments along the years. I don't forget. I never forget. Are Notebooklm and T3 Linguathor free? Yes, Notebooklm is totally free, and it's part of the Gemini. You just wrote Notebooklm. If you have a Gmail account, you will get access. Linguathor is free. You can use it for free, but then if you want more things, you have to pay, like any good thing. And this goes for Notebooklm as well. Notebooklm provides a lot of incredible things that you can do, but then if you want to take it to the next level, then you have to pay. I think it's a subscription-based model, both Linguathor and Notebooklm. But if you have some money to invest into this is into either Notebooklm or Linguathor. I think it's really well worth it, because they're both amazing tools. Nowadays, again, going back to this, my Turkish is so much fun. I just listen to stuff I create about stuff I did, or I might sound a little bit narcissistic to listen to podcasts where they talk about you or the stuff you've done, but they don't talk about me. They talk about topics I love talking about on YouTube. And think about the things you can do when it comes to, I can create my own podcasts of the length I want, the level I want. It's just mind-blowing. And this is just, I've shown you just one thing. Then there's many other things you can do, taking words, transforming them into stories. It's just amazing what you can do nowadays. If you want, guys, I can create another webinar or workshop just on how AI has completely changed the way I learn languages. You might find it interesting. Okay, so Jeff, hey Luca, how would you approach teaching your kids at least 2 of the languages you speak while the kid is learning their mom's mother language naturally from her? Oh, that's a really interesting question. I think you should ask that question to Richard Simcott. Richard Simcott is an amazing polyglot. He has a daughter. I think she's 14 or 15 right now, and he talked to her in 4 or 5 languages, and he's an expert in raising multilingual children. I don't have much experience with this, so I would just say that when it comes to kids, I think that if you speak in one language and the other parent speaks in another language, that's great. And it really depends on a number of circumstances. Let's say that you're an American, and then your wife is Italian, and then you live in France. Naturally, the kid, if you speak your native language, your wife speaks her native language, and the kid lives in, and you guys live in France, the child is going to learn the 3 languages really well. So it's really a matter of deciding what to do. But I would say that this is what I would do. I would not speak 2 languages with a child, but it really depends on how you do it. Richard might disagree with me because he used to speak, I don't know if he does it to this day. I think he does. He used to speak Macedonian, English. English is his native language. Macedonian is his wife's language, and they live in Macedonia. French, Spanish, and I think German, and it went well. So it really depends on a number of factors. This is really complex, but it's a good question. And Stefano as well. Stefano has a channel which is called Lingue Passione. He also has his wife is Finnish German, and he explained to me how he's developed all that. It's really fascinating. You can just drop a question to him and he will be happy to reply. He's a very nice guy. Luca Pellegrini. Quanto spesso in media parli la tua lingua madre? How often do you speak your own native language, which is Italiano? Dovendo tenere allenate altre lingue, having to deal with other languages, hai mai speso un giorno parlando solo italiano da quando sei diventato poliglotta? Have you ever had just one day speaking just Italian since you've become a polyglot? I was thinking about it the other day. The reality is, no. I always speak at least 3, 4, or 5 languages. I keep a language. Let me see if I can show you this. I keep a language maintenance logbook. I'm gonna share it with you. Let me see if this works. I'm not that techno savvy with this stuff. So let me see. So you should be able to see that. That is my language maintenance logbook. So basically the logbook describes in detail what I do to maintain all the languages I speak. The languages are divided into 2 main categories. Those belong into system 1. those that I speak at a high level and that I maintain by using them on a daily basis, and those belonging to System 2 or those I'm actively learning. The languages belonging to System 2 are, for this year as well, Turkish, Hungarian, and Serbian. So you can see here, for example, that I did Turkish, which is the language I'm actively learning, and then I used Italian logbook. I write a logbook every day for an hour, reflections about my life. Chat with Desh, who's my flatmate. YouTube and books, 2 or 3 hours. English, chat with Desh in French, because we speak French, Swedish, English, and Italian. And I do this every day. You can see here, 2nd of January, Turkish, Hungarian. These are the languages I've been, I still to this day learn actively. I also write exactly what I do. For example, here, super easy Turkish video 2. And each language has its own logbook. This is just a language maintenance logbook. And then here, I do it. You can see here, I do it every day. And the average is sometimes it's 5 languages, sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's 8. This is 3 now. Here I didn't write it because it was a hectic day. Six languages used. For example, logbook, newspaper, book, chat with Dash, 3 hours in Italian, 2-3 hours in English. France 24, I watched TV for 30 minutes. German, YouTube for 30 minutes. I also did 30 minutes of Russian. So basically, no, I haven't. I don't think there's a day where I speak just Italian. Either I speak, Italian, English, French. I think at least 3 or 4 languages. The minimum is 3, but very rarely do I use or speak just 3 languages. It's normally 4 or 5. And this depends on the fact that my life revolves around languages. Once you reach a certain level in the language, you can just use these languages and you don't even think about it. So that's the beauty of reaching let's say a B2 level. You can just use these languages and they stay with you, so to speak. Someone asks, what's your advice for someone that is confident in speaking in Spanish? Well, if you're confident, I don't think you need my advice, but maybe you're maybe you're referring to the fact of, maybe you want to ask me, how do you get confident speaking Spanish? Is that your question? And the answer is, how do you get confident? Well, by using the language in multiple situations. When someone reaches, for example, the upper echelons of language learning, what I call the upper echelons of language learning, B2, C1, C2, I don't think you should ask how many words do you know, how many expressions do you know. I think you should ask how many experiences have you had in the language. I think I think fluency or advanced fluency is a degree of confidence that you develop how you use the language. Because language learning or speaking a language fluently is not just a matter of how many words you know. Your linguistic competence is first and foremost how you've used the language. Have you learned to use the language in social circumstances? Whether you're just talking one-on-one, whether you're just sitting around a table with other native speakers in a wide range of other situations. So how do you get confident? Well, you just get confident by using the language in real case scenarios with real people, and then you just realize that, oh, it's not that bad. I can actually do it. Speaking of foreign language, when they say that like learning multiple languages like living multiple lives, it's cool and it's true, because if you think about it, when you learn a foreign language, you have to go through the same situations you went through before as an adult, and you've forgotten about it. Just you go to the supermarket the first time, your heart is pounding because you have to go to the supermarket and say Hungarian, and then you have to pay, and then you have to ask something, or you have to buy a ticket, or you have your first conversation, you have a date, and you have to sit down and you have to talk to that girl or that guy just in the language. Maybe you have a B1, so you're living the same situations you lived before in your own native language, but you're redoing it in another language with all the insecurities, the baggage of insecurities that we have and that we carry with us as adults. That's why we don't feel confident, because of the system, the entire system, and how we're programmed within the system in the Western world as well as the Eastern world, where competition, envy play a major role, while children learn their own native language really well because they basically play and they collaborate, while we compete and we're kind of judgmental towards one another. So the bottom line, sorry for the rant. It's just in order to get confident in any language, you have to use it. You have to use it in real life circumstances with the real people. The more situations you live, the better. Someone says, Антоний says, Лука, ты не говоришь по-русски. Я думаю, что говорю по-русски на самом деле, но если говорю по-русски, никто не говорит то, что говорю. He just said, hey, Luca, you don't speak Russian. I said, well, if I speak Russian, I'm not speaking Russian now. I just spoke a little bit because if I speak Russian now, nobody is going to understand. We can do a live in Russian. I've been doing these live shows in English. I can do it in Italian, Spanish, French, Russian, Portuguese, and Polish, or whatever. If you want, guys, at the end of this live show, I'm going to ask you what you guys want to see more. Do you want other live shows in other languages? Do you want me to do webinars? Do you want me to do workshops? Let's discuss together. Byron, when Byron is obsessed with Studio Ray. When are you and Studio Ray going to do a video together? You guys are easily among the most accomplished polyglots in the world, and it shows. Thank you, Byron. The funny thing is that next week, no, actually, let me backtrack. 2 days ago was the 17th anniversary of my YouTube debut. I remember I was in Barcelona. I just sat down and I recorded a video, and next week there's going to be a special video about that. And I remember that one of the reasons why I decided to make that video was Studio Raj, or Studio Ray. I call him Studio Ray. By the way, for those who don't know, Studio Ray is a polyglot. He's an Australian polyglot who now lives in Thailand. He's an amazing guy. And I remember this Thai show, and I was just mesmerized by his ability. And I said, I got to talk to this guy. And we ended up talking on and off. He sent me a message recently, and we will do an interview. So it's going to happen, Byron. I don't know exactly when it's going to happen, but probably it's going to happen by the end of the year. So just to answer your question. Pedro says, this is not a question, it's more like a statement. Love declaration. Te amo, Pedro. Te quiero yo también. You're my greatest reference in language learning. I love your work. Thank you very much. Let me see here. This is still my roommate, who, by the way, has a nice channel about languages, a Ceylonese polyglot. For Swedish, I recently watched Glaskupan. With whom did you watch Glaskupan? And The Breakthrough. Then study bilingual subs afterwards. I send them the bilingual subs through Language Reactor. So let me see if you guys have other questions. Yes, you do. I'm just going up and down to see, to see the most interesting questions. I'm going to try to answer to all of you, but it's not easy. Do you think beginners are capable of consuming less input? I'm not sure I understand the question, Novats. Do you think beginners are capable of consuming less input? Maybe you can rephrase it, because as of now, maybe you guys can reply to Novats, but I'm not sure I understand the question. It's difficult to pronounce your name, JFFGHGFJJJ. I said it anyway. Hi, Luca. How do you use episodic memory in language learning? Okay, so just to give you a little bit of context, episodic memory, I use it like this. Very quickly, I basically store information. We don't have time to go through this in detail, but I've shown it a couple of times. This, once again, it's in very much in detail in the Overcoming the Intermediate Plateau course. I think this is one of my favorite parts, where I really detail what I do with demo videos, but also, with nice slides. Basically, I collect pieces of language within circumstances or episodes. What do I mean by that? If you take a look at here, Lesson 5 with Edge, 20th of May, 2025. This is the framework. I call it episodic memory framework. Episodic, E, memory, M, framework, F, EMF. So this means that this bilingual content, Turkish and Italian, these are just small pieces of language that I collected from a lesson I had live with Edge, who's a teacher. We meet every Monday with a small group of people, and then I jot things down frenetically, jot things down on a piece of paper, these pieces of paper, and then the following day I transfer them here, and then I review them. And the great thing is that I don't collect just like, all the words about, say, colors, all the words about public transportation. I collect pieces of language. So these are not just simple words. These are pieces of language, meaningful pieces of language. Just to give an idea, let me see here. I want to order a salad at the restaurant. I eat pasta every day. Every day I drink water. I'm just reading what I've been collecting in terms of pieces of content within that given lesson. My favorite dish is durum. My favorite Italian dish is pizza. I love pasta. I love reading books. I read books every day, and so on and so forth. And I remember this stuff because in my memory, in my brain, this stuff is related to that one episode. It's related to that one lesson that happened with Edge that day in that place. And this is how I build and review vocabulary. I can't show the whole technique how I do it later, what I do later, but it's way better than anything I've tried before. So let me see here. Of course, I watched them with the most famous. I don't know if I'm famous. It doesn't matter. Look, I need to. Okay, so Robinson, look, I need to take the TOEFL exam, and I'm wondering what would be the best way to prepare for it. How have you prepared for any international exams? Yes, I have. I have 4 certifications, C2, and I would say the best way is to get a book, get a preparation book, go through it, and get some examples of the exam and go through them like in live simulation so that you can simulate the difficult environment and the difficulties that you can go through, you will go through when it comes to passing the exam. That's my advice. I always ask my students when private students come to me, because I still coach on and off, and someone asks me and sends me a message about it, I just tell them, look, if you want to prepare, get a book preparation, go through it, and then take a look at 3-4 examples of an exam, do them, and then you're gonna do fine, provided that you have the level that is necessary to pass the exam. So someone said something interesting. William said, living in the US today makes me never want to speak English. Language immersion gives me an escape. Interesting comment. Timothy said, proszę po polsku. So probably this comment refers to the fact that I was talking about the possibility of doing a live show in other languages. Why not? Let me see if you have other interesting questions. There's a lot here. Okay. We've done the episodic memory. Something else I wanted to tell you guys. So we've addressed the how to use native content the smart way with Linguathor. Speaking of which, I wanted to show you something else that you might find interesting. I am in the process of preparing 2 cool videos about reading. Please write in the chat if you read, if you like reading in your own native language, if you don't read at all, etc., etc. For those who read, but even for those who don't read, I can guarantee you that reading is one of the best ways to acquire, to get to C1 and C2. And recently I've been doing some research. I'm going to share something with you. This is my Kindle, as you can see here. And this is, hopefully you can see it, it's a page of a book, which is called Apocalypse Z. This is the Polish version. Let me see if you can take a look. You should be able to see that this is Polish. Now, here's the interesting part. I think I have a B2 level, a very solid B2 level in Polish, because I had a girlfriend for, we've been together. We were together for quite a long time, and I recount this episode that when we sat down, she never wanted to speak English with me, so that kind of forced me to speak Polish all the time. Now, the interesting part is this: even if I've been speaking Polish for over the last 8 years, it's still difficult to read a book like this. So speaking a language all the time can bring you to B2 because you use, everyday language. You get really good at using the language in everyday life and resorting to the same expressions, the, reply in certain ways. It gets you fluent by any stretch of the imagination. I can perfectly function within the Polish society. I found myself in situations where there's just native speakers talking to one another and, of course, talking to me. But the surprise is when I started reading this book, and once again, this is called Apocalypse Z, The Beginning of the End. It's the first book of the trilogy by Manuel Loureiro. This book, I read the entire trilogy in Spanish, which was amazing. And I started reading it in Polish. The funny thing is that there are, as you can see here, at least 3, 4, 5 words or expressions that I do not know. Sometimes 7, sometimes 10. And now you tell yourself, okay, well, just 3 words, 4 words, 5 words. What's the problem? You're able to go through this text and read it. Yes, I can understand more or less the gist of it, but the reality is, even if you don't know more than, say, 4, 5, 6, let's say 10 words on a page of 300 words, I guarantee you that you will understand the gist, but you will not understand the nuances of the text. And there is this very famous 98% rule, according to which you can do extensive reading, meaning you can read a book without a problem in a foreign language, in any foreign language, if you know 98% of the words. And I thought to myself, really? 98%? But then actually I tested it on myself, and it's true. You have to know at least 97 to 98%. If you know 92, which is my average here, 92% of the content for every page, then you can read the book, but you still find it difficult. So what I'm doing is I'm using a combination of this and this. I scan the page with Google Lens. I'm pretty sure that you guys know Google Lens. I just scan the page, reads it in Italian. And so while I listen to it, because I don't want to read another screen, I just listen to it. I mark the words that I don't know. The AI beautifully translates the entire page because it understands the context. Nowadays, the processing speed and it's amazing. And then I understand everything. So what I'm doing is I'm bridging the gap between B1 and C1, because with this little tool, Google trick, I can call it a trick. This has become super nice. It takes me 2 seconds to scan the page. Yes, it's not like I'm reading as if I were reading an Italian or a language I know well, but it's really rewarding because I do 10 pages a day. I go through them rather quickly, and then I have this level, let's say B1 plus in Polish, that allows for these words to stick naturally because I already have a big infrastructure in my brain when it comes to Polish. For example, new words are recognized, maybe roots of words that I know. So it's just amazing what is happening, and I really love it. And this is just the beginning. So I want to do it in other languages as well. Just to give you an idea of, again, the fact that rich, comprehensible content, enjoyable, rich, and comprehensible, can be applied to any level. At the beginning, you don't know much, so you have to rely heavily on that. And then you become an intermediate learner, and then you move on. Even at the advanced stage in Polish, I'm using this technique. I'm sticking to content that is enjoyable, comprehensible, and rich. And this is making a huge difference. So it's not conversations anymore. Yes, I can listen to also YouTube videos, etc. But conversations, YouTube and podcasts where people talk to one another, still everyday language. Here you have descriptions of stuff. Do you get exposed to descriptive language? Not in movies, because in movies you see the action, nobody describes it to you. And you don't talk about people describing complex things in everyday conversations. So literally, you are venturing into unknown ground, and you're learning a lot of vocabularies, of new words and expressions that you don't know. That's why reading is so incredible. I'm so glad I started reading since I was 10 or 11, maybe. And that made a huge difference. So once again, if you guys like reading, please find a way to read as much as you can, because that's really going to make a difference. So let's go to some other questions. Let me see. Kidman, this is more like a statement. I'm your greatest African fan, and your channel changed my life. I went from an average Joe to a hyper polyglot who gets invited to give lectures in Kenya schools, bro. I love you. Thank you, Kidman. I'm pretty sure the merit is all yours. I haven't done anything. I'm pretty sure that you've gotten to this point. You must have done a lot of good things for you, for yourself. Alex, how do I balance multiple languages? It's hard for me because everything is so interesting. Well, I just stick to one language. As I've shown you before, I have a system. I imagine learning languages like having a family, right? Let's imagine that you speak 3 languages fluently. You've been learning one for 6 months. Maybe it's a low intermediate level. So you have, let's say, a family with 3 adults. You got 2 sons, 1 daughter. They're kind of adults. They're in their 20s. They left home. Then you got the teenager at home. And then if you want to learn, let's say, French from scratch, then you have a newborn. You have a little kid. And then you have to give that kid a lot of attention and a lot of your energy. So you have to think that learning languages is like a family that grows, so you have to think, okay, how much time and energy do I have to take care of all the members of the family? Now, the cool thing is that once you reach let's say a B1, a B2 in a language, we always use this label, but once you reach fluency in a language, the language is in you. You can get rusty in it, but you will never forget it. And that is the point where you can just do things in that language and through that language during the day. And if you find creative ways to incorporate that language or those languages in your day, as I do, because my life revolves around languages. I don't even think about using these languages. It just happens. I don't know. I read a magazine in German in the bathroom, normally, Der Spiegel. I talk to my roommate in Swedish and French or Italian. I speak with my colleague in Spanish. I read a book in Polish. So that happens naturally, but then you have the languages that you want to learn. They're learning actively, like in this case, Turkish. For that, I need my 30 to 45 minutes sitting down. And the reality is that, all languages are really interesting, and you have to make a decision. Do you want to, get a smattering of a lot of languages, or you want to go deep into a few languages and maybe get a smattering of some other languages? It really depends on you. Some people like to go deep, some people like to go wide. It's really up to you. But the fundamental rule is always the same. The more languages you have to deal with, the more family members you have to take care of, the more effort and energy it takes. There's no way around this, unfortunately. Okay, guys. So we're approaching it's already an hour and 10 minutes. I will reply to a few more questions. But before we do, I'd like you to know if you like this kind of information, if you want me to share more of how I learn things, I will make some videos on YouTube about how I really sit down on this desktop and how I go through things, because I think that showing how I do things in practice is really important. But let me know what you're interested in. Are you interested in webinars, in workshops, in real life demonstrations? Do you want me to focus on training, on showing you how I train my accent and my pronunciation, or how I learn grammar, how I learn vocabulary? How I use podcasts, how I use videos, how I read. So let me know in the comments any idea. I'm going to save it, and I'm going to think about the what, the how, and the when. What to show, how to show it, and when to show it. So, I love sharing this thing, but I want to help you even more. So help me help you learn languages better and more efficiently and with more fun. Let's put it this way. So here we have both the iPad and the computer. It's getting a little bit overwhelming with all the questions, but let me go up. Let's see if there's some other interesting questions. Someone asks in capital letters, ¿qué es lo que enseñas en tus cursos en español? Porque quiero aprender idiomas. ¿Me puedes dar un panorama general? So basically he wants to know, what do I teach? There are two courses. There are two main flagship courses. One is called the Bidirectional Translation. One is called Overcoming the Intermediate Plateau. And we're adding a third one. The Bidirectional Translation is how to learn a language from scratch for the first 3 to 6 months. It's very structured, very well structured. It's for complete beginners learning any language. And we have the version completely in English, a version completely in Spanish. And the Overcoming the Intermediate Plateau is for people who have, let's say, an A2, B1 level, low intermediate, and the want to reach fluency, B2. And these are courses where we do provide some language learning materials, language specific, but we focus on giving you the tools, the mindset, and the strategy, the organization tools in order to get organized and learn exactly, know exactly what to do, how to do it, and when to do it at these different levels. And we're adding another course for advanced. I'm just gonna send you a link just in case you want to take a look. We have removed the Spanish courses from the page because it was creating some confusion, so you will not see them, but you can send a private message, and there's more in the back end. If you subscribe to the newsletter, you can get more information about the Spanish courses. Pedro, I'd like to improve my writing in Italian. Any advice? Well, with ChatGPT, write on stuff that you like. Start with journaling, talking about stuff you want to talk about, and get some feedback directly from ChatGPT or one of the many AI tools that you have at your disposal. Get that feedback and rewrite the text. Do it once a week, and you will see what happens. Again, want to improve your speaking, you want to improve your writing, you have to do some deliberate practice. Sit down and write every day. Establish a habit of writing for 10 minutes a day. Write about something you like, something that is personal, and make sure that you get feedback from AI so that you can take that feedback and implement it to write the same text a little bit better the day after or the week after. This is how you get better at anything. You just do it every day and you get feedback, whether by artificial intelligence or a human being. Jose, what was the name of the documentary about the Finland education again? I don't remember, but I can look it up. I just can write here on YouTube. Michael Moore, Finland school system. There we go. I found it. I'm just gonna share it with you. It's really fun. It's fun. It's a fun watch. So here's just I think 10 minutes of it. There's not the entire thing. There we go. Here, just take a look. And also you can if you want to delve into this concept. Of the the why Finland is one of the best countries in the world when it comes to school education. Fascinating story behind how they changed their entire system and why it works so well. You can just type Finland education system or schooling system and you will know why. Someone said, you were saying Google Link. Maybe I did not understand correctly. Is this the same app as Google Translator? I'm not sure, Matthias, what you're referring to now with Google Links. Maybe it's a message you wrote some time ago when I was talking about something else. Oh, Google Lens. Yes, Google Lens is simply what you have on your phone. So basically, let me show you here. You have the Google icon. You can see here. I just click on the Google icon. And then you have an icon here. And if you click on it, then this is called Google Lens. It scans everything. You can take any page, like this one, right? And it scans it. Let me do it here. So I'm just going to scan the page. Oops. And it scans the page. And then not only it scans the page, you can translate it into Italian, or you can choose the language, and then it plays it for you.
Imparare una grammatica trattino basso implicita ed esplicita apprendimento ciao. Callo nella nostra recensione dettagliata di oggi. Soprattutto al tuo livello di turco vivi 81.
So I can read the stuff in Turkish while I listen to it in Italian. I can read the book in Polish while I listen to it in Italian. This allows me to immediately understand everything. I just mark some words here and there, and it makes my reading much more fun. And for, so you got Google Lens. Let me write it here. Google Lens. You have DeepL. You have LinguaThor T3. You have Chat GPT. You have Mac Whisper. And what else? You have Gemini if you want. These are the tools that you can use, a combination of these tools in order to create whatever you want. It's just amazing. Someone said King too. So you can repeat after this in every language to pretend to be able to speak 15 languages. The interesting thing about this is like I got invited to another famous podcast show, and I will go, but I will tell the authors not to ask me that question again, because I was I didn't know that he was so famous in the United States. It's a podcast series. I don't remember the name, and they asked me to, hey, so after having this long and nice discussion about, language learning, second language acquisition, they go like, hey, can you tell me this sentence in 15 languages here, spur of the moment, just give me that. And that had happened quite a few times, especially in radio shows or television. And I just come to the conclusion that people want to see the show, and it's about the show. I want to talk about, educational stuff, about how to learn languages, not show off and demonstrate that I can speak these languages. And it's a difficult thing to do. You might say, oh, well, it's just a short, simple sentence in 15 languages. Try to do that in 15 languages in front of everybody. You will see that it's difficult, and it doesn't show anything. I still remember also, I still recount this episode because it's really interesting. I made a YouTube video, actually not me, the organizer of this Polyglot conference in Moscow. And you can see and watch on YouTube. But at a certain point, we were speaking in Russian. I did not remember the word for mix which is smies in Russian. And there's a guy who wrote, "Oh, you don't know the word smies in Russian, so you're not fluent in Russian," which is an interesting claim. So I'm here to help you learn languages, not to show off or anything. I have multiple videos where I speak multiple languages, but I don't think that's the main point. The main point here, what my mission here is to really share the knowledge and the skills that I've developed, the competence, and convince you that you can learn any language you want. That we have nowadays the possibilities, the tools, we can do anything. We just have to develop the right mindset, and we have to understand how our brain learns languages. My mission is all about that. Anyway, someone said, "Please, the real world, how you do it, accent would be awesome." Okay, so someone said, "I'm interested in your methods for time management and prioritizing languages. More reading and listening content would be helpful too. How you make difficult content more comprehensible." I've never talked about this, guys, but I can share my day. I can show you how I wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning and what I do every single day, how I stack my habits, and how I've been optimizing the system. You might find it a little bit extreme, but the reality is there's freedom in structure. It might sound counterintuitive, but actually my day is much, I organize the day so that I'm actually flexible and I have much more flexibility than people who just, they go to work, they do the 9-4, whatever, the 5 hamster wheel thing. And I understand if you have a fixed job and you have to go to the office, it can be tough, but you can organize. There's amazing ways in which you can actually learn and squeeze in learning time into any day, and how you can use your energy, leverage your energy, your body, your mind in order to learn and do many things. The one thing I would say, I will say this. One thing that really changed the way I structure my day is that I removed my phone from my bed. So one very deleterious, can you say deleterious in English? Deleterious habit that I had was to reach for my phone first thing in the morning. And then I did some research, and that creates a massive confusion in your head, a lot of noise, the level of cholesterol, and even impacts your hormones. And I got scared, and I started asking myself, why am I constantly confused in the morning and I can't focus for more than 20 minutes? And I removed the phone from my bed, and now I can spend 7 hours. I do actually in the morning learning languages, working. I put in in 3-4 hours, I'm able to do the work that I used to. It used to take me 7 hours, and this is just with one habit. I can share how I've my productivity stuff, because I never talk about this on YouTube, but this is one of the main reasons why I managed to learn and maintain so many languages and read a lot of books and meet friends and do whatever I want. I have limits, of course. It's just, I am a little bit sleep deprived sometimes, but I can talk about that if you guys want. I can share a day in Luca's life. That Thai show with Stu influenced me greatly as well. David, our beloved David, master and founder of LinguaThor T3, also was influenced by Stu J. Rai. And one day I should invite all the polyglots. We can do a polyglot panel on my channel live and talk about stuff. I think that would be a cool idea. Keep sharing your ideas, because normally what I do after the live, I review them all. And I think about, other things we can do. Someone said, wait, sir, it's 9 to 5. You're actually right. It's 9 to 5. I don't know what I said. It was probably said 9 to 4. Fake polyglot, only real polyglot. No, it's not 9 to 4. This is another funny comment by our beloved Alex. Someone said, Mr. Communication, you sound like a kid. He's doing it on purpose because he's my colleague, and he always comes here the last 10 minutes and just fires provocative questions just to crack me up. Someone said, let's see Luca's routine. Okay, if you want to see my routine, we can do that as well. Okay, we get 10 more minutes, guys. If you have any other questions, let me know. Well, actually, you do have a lot of questions. I'm sorry if I skipped some questions. I don't do it on purpose. I would go through all of them. It's just that, as you can imagine, it's really difficult to manage everything here. So you have to reply. You have to look for other questions. You have to choose the question. It's really energy consuming, but it's fun. I love doing this. One more thing, I will be in Krakow the whole summer. Just in case you guys are in Krakow or near Krakow, let me know. and I will do some more live shows from there. I have better internet, better equipment, a better background here, but I guess you want to hear my voice. You don't want to see the fancy stuff behind me. So what are your thoughts on learning Spanish on Udemy online classes? I have no thoughts because I've never learned Spanish on Udemy online on Udemy online classes. So that's the answer. That's the only answer I can give you. How to improve your accent? This would be so interesting to see you demonstrate the process. Anna says, "Well, shall be done at your service." Someone says, "I'm interested in your methods for time management and prioritizing languages. More reading and listening content would be helpful too. How you make difficult content more comprehensible, for example." Excellent. I can do that. I've given a demonstration right now. It was, a little bit short because I didn't go through that in detail due to lack of time, but I can do that as well. Someone says, "Do you use Anki? How many cards a day?" I've already talked about this before. I don't use Anki. I just consume content, and then I just consume a massive amount of content. I make it enjoyable, comprehensible. I choose rich content, and then I use a system to review words on and off, which is 10-20% of the time. 80% is input. I don't find Anki to my taste, but for example, David is a great. He loves Anki. I think it's a great tool if you do it on top of the usual routine of getting massive input. The only big risk is that you end up spending more time on Anki than actually listening to content that is like, I don't know, podcasts or reading novels, etc., etc. That's the biggest risk, because if you have 1 hour a day, your time slot is limited. You have to wisely choose the way you use that time. It's not just a matter of quantity; it's also a matter of quality. Tim Crackdown, great. I'm learning Polish. What is some Greek content you enjoy? Lucas asked me. It's mainly Astronio and Easy Turkish. It's Easy Turkish, Astronio, and I have a bunch of other channels that I've been watching recently. But mainly, I'm very passionate about astronomy and cosmology and Astronio. I have also books from Astronio in Greek, and that's the kind of material that I like and I'm enjoying in terms of videos. While in terms of podcasts, I just religiously listen to Easy Greek. Marilena and Dimitri, if you're watching, you're great. And I love it. Greek is by far my favorite language, and I would love to go to Greece this year, but unfortunately it ain't gonna happen. Not this year, but maybe next year. Are the reports from the Italian media true that you went to rehab for your Anki addiction? Oh man, you're crazy. So let's see. Kato, it's crazy how much motivation gives me reading all-time polyglots' thoughts on languages. Does it happen to any other top old-time polyglots? It's funny that you say that. Yosef, Kato Lomb, or Lomb Kato, as the Hungarians used to call her. It's a very famous Hungarian polyglot. Let me see if I can find it for you. How I learn languages. So here, I think you can find it for free. Yeah, there you go. You can easily find it on the internet. This is an amazing book. It's called How I Learn Languages. Lomkato, together with Steve Kaufman, Professor Arguelles Rai or Raj. She's one of my favorite polyglots. Amazing book. Read it. If you know Hungarian, read it in Hungarian. And there's also another book, which is called Babel No More, written by Michael Erard, if I'm not wrong. I don't know if it's with an H. I think it's Herard. Michael Herard. I might be wrong. Or Erard without an H. And it's also a fascinating book about polyglots. And polyglots, in the past, inspire me also, especially Mezzofanti, my Italian countryman, Cardinal Caspare Mezzofanti, Cato Lomb, and you also have some other. I have the books there. They're a little bit far, but you also have another one which I really like. Let me show you here if I can find her. I don't know if there's anybody who writes who speaks German. I'm gonna share this here. This is another one of my favorite books. There you go. Stroh im Kopf. Vera Birkenbill. Amazing. All her books are really great if you want to learn the craft of learning how to learn. Jeff says, Luca, you're my favorite fake polyglot. Thank you. I don't know if you guys, about this fake polyglot stuff. I made a couple of videos. I always think that you should get, there's always good stuff, and there are always lessons to learn from every polyglot, every person, every YouTuber, even the most negative ones. I think you can turn anything negative into a positive lesson. This has been my philosophy. And when people talk about fake polyglots, I've watched a lot of people on the internet, some who claim that they speak a bunch of languages really well, then they don't. But it's not that relevant. I think if I understand that you might get angry if you see these people selling courses, they're making money out of supposedly gullible people, but you can always get a course, and if you don't like it, you just there's this refund policy, and then you go on with your life. That's what I think. So let me see here. Shame on all of your scammers and scammer supporters. No shame in life, no dignity, no self-respect. Okay, let me see if there are other comments. We have 4 more minutes, so let's see here. What did you think about the used display of con languages in Denis Villeneuve's Dune Part 2? I watched the video, but I got to tell you the truth, I don't know about. I haven't thought about that display of con languages. So I don't know, Byron, honestly. Luca, what is your next course going to be? When can we expect it to come out? The people are thirsty. Nom nom. Okay, so the next course is in September, and probably we're going to do a cohort. I don't know if you guys are interested or might be possibly interested in that. We're going to Alex, my colleague, and all my team, we've been putting together a fantastic course about learning and maintaining multiple languages. We ran a poll within the academy. It looks like that and the course about moving from B2 to C2 and beyond are the most popular requests. So we decided to comply, and we're building the course as of now. So it will see the light in September. Stay tuned. Because there's a lot of stuff in there. There's my system, how I organize my day. There's a lot of interviews with famous polyglots and how they organize their day, including Richard Simcott, who speaks, 50, 60 languages, not a fake polyglot, and many more things. So I'm really proud of this course that we're putting together, because it really shows what I do and how, not just what I do, but how you can accomplish. How can you can learn multiple languages, maintain and learn at the same time. So it's a very comprehensible, thorough course about the whole charade, the whole thing. And the funny thing about this is that we decided to go for this course because we've realized that a lot of people in the academy and a lot of people here on YouTube, and actually the chat demonstrates that, it's proof of that, are learning multiple languages at the same time or want to learn multiple languages. So it's a topic that is in high demand. Anyway, so one more, I'll address one more question. What opinion do you have on mnemonics for learning a vocab? I would say that, again, my view of that is really simple. I always stick to language learning is a simple thing at its core, but it's not easy because we make it complicated. I would say the most important thing is to, again, I know I sound a little bit repetitive, is to stick to the rule of consuming content that is enjoyable, comprehensible, and rich. And this is how you learn a lot of stuff. Because your brain builds the infrastructure, and then this infrastructure gets bigger and bigger. It's like a spider web. The flies are words, or words are flies that get stuck in the net, stuck in the spider web, the thicker it becomes. So my simple, because at its core, it's simple. My simple strategy is to focus on consuming content that you like, and then you can pay attention. You can mark words. You can put them in a you can use these words, combine these words to form sentences. This is an organic way to go about it. While mnemonics, I find it amazing to use mnemonics for certain things. I've watched. I followed a course by John Quick. That's not John Quick. I always mess it up. Jim Quick. Sorry, John Wick and Jim Quick. It's a mix. It's a mess. And he showed very like amazing ways of remembering things, but that's not something I would use for language learning. Let's imagine that you're trying to remember a word using mnemonics. It just burdens your memory, because it's great to remember that word within a declarative memory environment. So if you want to remember the word and you kind of use mnemonics, is great. But then to use it on the fly, you have to use procedural memory, which is it's completely different circuitry in your brain. And again, language learning at its core is simple. You have to listen, you have to speak, you have to do it in an organic way where you get words, pronunciation, syntax all together in one shot. So a couple of other things before we close the whole thing. Luca, do you think that speaking to yourself can help you enough to improve quite well your speaking? Hopefully you can answer. Juan says, is self-talk great? The answer is yes. I use self-talk by using these notebooks. I have like at least 30 of them. They're in here. And basically what I do is like you can self-talk. You can talk to yourself if you want to. But nowadays you can either talk to Langua, for example, Langua or any other AI tools. I've been using Langua. It's amazing. I've made a video about that. I can share it with you just in case you haven't watched it. Let me see if I can find it for you. I will tell you a little bit more about self-talk just in a second. Here we go. So I found it and I'm gonna share this with you. So here, there you go. You should be able to see that. So as we were saying, when it comes to self-talk, I highly recommend that you always bridge input with output. So you put, let's say that let me give you a very concrete example. Let's say that I have this podcast. I'm learning Turkish. This is a podcast about explicit versus implicit memory. And then I can just take 10 or 15 or 20 words, and then I do this. I organize it into this notebook, and then I just go through the notebook and I use these pieces of language in order to talk to myself. So you're using input and output at the same time. You're leveraging both, right? And you can talk to yourself this way, because talking to yourself without having a base is kind of difficult. You can do that. It's a great exercise. I've been doing that for a long time, for the last 3-4 years, especially with Greek, which I really like. But nowadays, you have amazing tools where you can use this. So you can, for example, and I do this, I started doing this. You can take this content, you can extract 20 words, and then you can go, for example, to Langua, and you can use these words. Let me just show you here very quickly. If I can do that, I should be able to do that. Let me see. There's a lot of open windows here. So you should be able to see that. Let me know, guys, if you can see my screen. You should be able to see it right now. So here I am. This is a tool I've been using. This is the language of Swedish, for example. Here I can go say Greek, could be Turkish, then you save the settings. You can choose the level, intermediate, upper intermediate. Here it's upper intermediate. I'm gonna save it, and then you can just go and speak. So here you can go, I can have a conversation, chat about anything, do a role play, have a debate, grammar practice, vocab. You can even pretend to be on a date, and then you go to general conversation, you click on it. Let's see if it works. And then
Γεια σου, Λούκα. Τι κάνεις? Για ποιο θέμα θα ήθελες να μιλήσουμε σήμερα?
You cannot hear the voice probably because it's going through my AirPods, but it speaks like with a native sounding voice. And then I can just reply. It gives you, for example, I can go like, Γεια σου, τι κάνεις? Είμαι καλά. You see? So here.
Μια χαρά είμαι.
You have a reply.
Ευχαριστώ. Τι έκανες σήμερα το πρωί?
So now, for example, you can see here, there's many things you can play. You can play this again. You can translate it. And it can even tell you how to say things better, which is amazing. And then you go back and forth, and then it creates an entire PDF with a lot of feedback. This is what I'm talking about when it comes to the next level, meaning that this way, and I have, dozens of these conversations, this way you can really improve your language skills. You have no stress. You're talking to a machine that knows everything. You can really talk about anything. I can tell him, hey, I learned about implicit and explicit memory. Can we talk about memory? What do you know about the brain? And you go back and forth. So it's a different, it's really, we live in a different time where we can do anything we've ever dreamed of. By the way, Langua, I think most of you know that I also collaborate with them because this tool is amazing. I recently talked to one of the founders and they're introducing even cooler things. I'm going to leave the affiliate link here, and they have a coupon code 20% off just in case you want to give it a try. It's free. You literally sign up, see if you like it, and then if you like it, you can use this coupon, whether it's monthly subscription or yearly subscription. This is one of the most fun activities for me. Is just the capacity of being able to speak about anything you want with a machine that knows everything, that sounds like a native, and it even introduces humor, gives you feedback. You can download that feedback. It's just mind-blowing what you can do. So for me, it's not, once again, it's never just one thing. You can self-talk. I do that self-talk, even if we have these amazing tools. I always like my notebook. I always write, pen, paper, jotting things down, using the notebook, talking to AI. It's a combination of these things that makes it fun, makes it effective. Anyway, I hope you like this. Once again, I will be collecting all your ideas, all your suggestions. Once again, if you have some more suggestions, some more ideas, some more questions, what are your struggles right now? What are you struggling with? What would you like me to show you? Again, is that pronunciation? Is that how to learn words? Is that how to learn grammar? Do you want to see a glimpse of how I organize my day? Do you want to see, how I use podcasts or videos, or how I train my pronunciation? What kind of stuff would you like? In which format? Would you like me to write on a blackboard? Would you like me to do a workshop? Would you like me to do a webinar? Apart from the courses that I'm building, of course. So, let me know in the comments because, again, this really helps me zero in on the things that really move the needle and that you want to see, And I will do, in parts, I will do it here. On YouTube, and in part I will do it also on my academy. So someone said how you organize your day. A lot of people want to see that. Okay, that's fine. It's not something I've never shown, actually. I should do that. A 24-hour live stream on my life. I cannot show everything, but I will show a good chunk of it. Okay, guys, I think this is it. Thank you very much for everything. I wish you a fantastic day, a fantastic weekend, and I'll see you probably in a month or so once I am in. Maybe I'm gonna do one last show before I leave for Krakow, and then we'll see. Please write your ideas there. It's really a gold mine for me. All the ideas, all the nice words, all the inspiration. Occasionally, I get either the hater or I've taken care of someone who was leaving comment, and I know who that guy is. There's always the same guy who leaves comments. But love will prevail, as they say. So I see here that you're leaving a bunch of comments. Thank you. Love you, dude. Take care. Thank you. I'd like some content for teachers. We're helping students. I've reached out about your English teacher's method before. Tiago, maybe you have. I receive a lot of messages. I hope I reply to you. And if I haven't replied, I owe you an apology, but I get a lot of messages. It's not easy to keep up. I need an assistant. Anyway, Melvin said, I'm new on your live. Thank you for coming, Melvin. I will do more. So you will get used to the format. Once again, I really hope that you guys and girls are having had a like this. Margaret says, I'm so sorry about all the people sending hate. Keep going with your job. There's just one, Margaret. And the thing is, I don't really care. There's a few people they're miserable in their life. I don't care. It doesn't. It actually, I find it sometimes even fun, but it's tragic for them, not for me. Someone said, I don't know, it's a wise man that said, haters are gonna hate anyway, And no matter what you do in your life, there's going to be some people who are going to hate you for their own personal reasons. The only thing you can do is to do the best you can with what you have. This is what I'm trying to do. If you get the occasional hater or a person who leaves comments, I don't really give a beep's ass. So pardon my French. Thank you very much. Have a fantastic day. Thank you for all the all the encouragement, all the nice words, all the questions, your curiosity, your drive, your passion, your thirst for knowledge. And I wish you a fantastic weekend once again. And I will see you very soon here on YouTube. Stay tuned for next week because there's a special video coming out for the 17th anniversary. I'm getting old and my YouTube channel is old, but I hope it's still a good one for you to watch. Bye-bye. Have a fantastic day and a fantastic weekend. Ciao.